welcome.
Hello.
I'm sitting here with Stephan, my partner, and today we want to talk about Hawthorn. It's a plant that many has been asking us a lot about, so we thought we'll do an episode about this beautiful teacher sitting with one of her leaves right now. And if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe. Anywhere else, you can do that too. We'll also have a link for our newsletters. Yeah, so Stephan, what is Hawthorn? Oh, and in Danish that would be Hvidtjørn.
Yeah.
Not Hawthorn.
Yeah, the big difference. In German it will be the Weißdorn, the white thorn. What is it? It is a smaller tree, grows up to 6 meters I think, and can be quite big, and it is full of mystery. Full of fairy tale, of old stories of witches and of magic. So
yeah, there's a lot of different folklore that has Hawthorn as a very special tree.
Yeah, where should we even start? So maybe Sleeping Beauty is a good entrance. I don't know. Of course, there is talked about the thorns, and if you trace it back in southern Germany, France, there was once a real castle, totally overgrown by, of course, Hawthorn. You know, in the fairy tale, everybody falls asleep, and that is also one of the big things of Hawthorn. If you drink an extract of her, many people fall asleep actually. It releases the blood vessels around the heart, it relaxes your muscles, and that brings many people close to dreams, having wild dreams, and also sleep. So that Sleeping Beauty can become you when you drink some of the Hawthorn, when you connect with her. Means on another level, in the fairy tales we often see the female as the soul, as the heart, as the love, and she is asleep, so she is deeply unconscious. What's missing is the consciousness. And in that story we don't hear anything about how that so-called prince there, how he has to grow before he is even able to go towards that castle, to be so conscious that he can face Hawthorn, that hedge witch himself. And on the other side, if we're going into the perspective of Hawthorn, to let him even pass. So she will let him pass, of course, when he is ready. We see this with all the other tries where those not great guys were just hanging into the thorns, because Hawthorn is a protector of the heart. So she helps us to protect that. And everyone who is not coming with good intentions, not coming with the love, will be stopped. Now that's one story.
Yeah. And I think it's, we talked about it maybe it was a month ago, this thing about how is Sleeping Beauty seen from the witch's perspective. And if you really take, I think with Hawthorn, it's one of those plants where I feel like it's important to take, for a moment, to take good and bad out of it. Like our human likes and dislikes, and what's the right way and what's the wrong way, and simply look at, if we took all of that out, Hawthorn is simply wise and powerful. Very powerful, very wise, very potent. And then, of course, if we start putting duality back into it, then there are these kind of more, I would say, witchy aspects, but what does that even mean? But there are these more dark aspects to Hawthorn, these that can very easily be misunderstood as something bad, and it can be used in that way. Like any power can be used in a good way or a not so good way, And so so Hawthorn is one of the plants that I have a lot of in Danish we would say ærefrygt. It's
Respect?
not. Yeah, it's like respect goes towards fear, like, but with but not fear as such, but it's like just really, really respect for the plant, and it's like a plant I would say not to fuck around with.
Don't mess with Hawthorn.
Yeah. And compared to some of these plants, let's say like birch, which is so pure in her, she's like a fresh mountain spring, you know, it's like, and that can be tough, and cleaning isn't all comfortable. We're not talking about what's comfortable here, but Hawthorn has that other side to it that really is in the darkness. Not that birch doesn't have. She's a shadow hunter too. I'm trying to make a comparison here, and I'm get lost in all the nuances. But
you should not compare your friends.
No,
Yes.
I'm trying to. Yeah, I think for me one of the things with Hawthorn is really that she is in the hedge. Here in Denmark, she has been planted. Like in general, you'll see her in the hedge between fields, in the hedge between houses, and out into the wilderness, and that's really where I see her stand as this, you know, in between society, quote unquote safety, civilization, and then the wild, the wilderness. And so when you have these old wise women and wise men, in our tradition and in our culture that goes on udsidning, like the Nordic vision quest, they go to sit outside of the fence, outside of the hedge, out in the wilderness. In my perspective, they're crossing by Hawthorn. And Hawthorn is the gatekeeper. She's the gatekeeper in between the worlds. And there are many other traditions where she has that kind of gatekeeper thing. I have a friend from Romania. I think she said it was a Romanian thing where they also say it's like a tree that connects to ancestors, and that that you would plant one in your property to be well connected in that way. And I'm just saying that as an example, and thank you to my friend for sharing that. I'm saying that as an example that there's like so many different ways where Hawthorn has, there's like a respectful way of being close to Hawthorn. And so you have her as the hedge, you have her in between our city, our town, and the wild. And thus she can open up the door to the wild. And that's where we talk about, if we take the good and bad out of it, the wild is beautiful and
It's
magical
wild.
and good, and it's wild, exactly. There are like animals, and there are bugs, and there are, you know, gnomes and fairies, and like all these kind of things. And so it's really a tree with a lot of depth. And maybe I just want to mention here that when we talk about Hawthorn, we talk mainly from our own lived experience with this plant, our own way of, so our whole hedge in our property is Hawthorn.
Definitely.
And when we moved here, we lived in a camping wagon under the Hawthorn while we built our house. And we've been, you know, for the past 4 years, really deeply immersed in Hawthorn. And so that's the time that we've really been working with this plant, and also the time that many of these stories that we talk about is lived from our perspective. So now you can go and you can read all these other things, and maybe your relationship to this plant is going to be different. Just want to mention that in this, like, this is one perspective of this plant. This is one nuance to help you open up for the nuances that really resonate with you.
Yeah. Of course, to be understood, take what we say as granted from those wise people, the plant shamans, and forget all about it and start your own journey.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. As you said, Hawthorn is in many myths, and I just want to bring out one, which is also very common. People are connecting to a lot. Is more from the Irish tradition, to say that in the Hawthorn, or through the Hawthorn, we are entering the fairy kingdom. Speaks about the same thing. We're going into the wild, meeting the wild spirits. That is then also, as you said, honoring the tree, especially the older ones, and cuttings from the tree. If you take something from a rose and disregarding her thorns, then you might get a reminder of that there are also thorns. So really to try to speak in a non-dual manner of good and bad, she keeps her boundaries. There is also why she is in the hedge. So it's said that if you cut down an old hawthorn, you will have misluck, bad luck in your life. They were even saying, oh, this company has built something and there was an old hawthorn and now the company is bankrupt. So yeah, of course. The nature spirits, they're not fighting back. This goes more subtle. So in my experience, our experience, hawthorn can connect us beautifully to nature spirits, beautifully even to higher realms. It is a absolutely great plant medicine, and it can also connect us to more difficult and challenging aspects of that realms. It's about us, our focus, our respect, and that basically counts with every plant. It's just like nettle, very clear. Nettle, overstepping nettle's boundaries. Okay, we know that all, how that feels. Hawthorn is a little bit more bloody. Goes deeper on that way. Yeah. But
well,
it is not different. Yeah. It is not bad in that way.
No.
But really, if you speak about plants in general, like you brought in birch is way more forgiving than hawthorn. Hawthorn is not easy to be good again with it. It's like we had so much plant talks about our relationship to those plants are like relationships we would have in, I cannot say real life, this is real life for us, but with people, with humans. It might be a simplification of just putting that plant spirit into human form so we can communicate it with it. We also see that this is just a small aspect of it, but this is how we can relate the best. That is what we know about relationship, and we are learning more and more every time we connect with those beautiful teachers how to relate and how not. How is your relationship with Hawthorn?
Yeah, I would say that you definitely have a deeper relationship with Hawthorn, and Stephan is also the one who makes medicine with Hawthorn of us. I mean, I make some smaller things, but I feel very much Hawthorn is a witch's plant, again, like in the hedge, and I feel there is a very deep like commitment and a stepping into daring to sit with the darkness with Hawthorn. And so it has definitely taken me some years. Also when you said like the blood and the pricking, I really feel that kind of, blood and moon cycle, and like not that it like regulates your moon cycle or anything, but what I mean is like this deep ritual of like darkness and rain and wind and the invitation of sitting with nature in all her seasons. Because I think, again, this is one of the core things I hear everybody being like, oh, I love nature, and it's like, yeah, when it's sunny and it's warm and there's no mosquitoes and like when it's
no
comfortable.
thorns.
Exactly, when nature shows herself up as a beautiful maiden, or like as a abundant, caring mother. But what happens when she starts showing her crone face, right? And I feel that Hawthorn really has that maiden, mother, crone maiden in the spring with her white flowers, mother in the like summer towards autumn with her red berries, and then like the crone in the winter with all her thorns and all, And I feel Hawthorn has that invitation of us sitting with that. And I think many people ask us, like, okay, how do I start working with Hawthorn, and how do I make something with Hawthorn? And I know this is very normal as us humans, and especially when we start working with plants. How do I make a tincture? How do I make a tea? How do I do something with it? And I feel first and foremost with Hawthorn, go and sit with her where she lives in whatever weather is happening. Like, that's where the magic is. like that for me is like the deepest invitation from her, which is like, it's not about drinking her, it's about sitting in whatever is there. Sit with it. And it has that that sass to it. I feel she has that you know. Yeah. And I think another thing that, you know, when you also talk about protecting the heart, one of the things that really came to me, or like that, not came to me, but I resonated with when I guess I read it. I don't remember where it came from, but it was some years ago, realizing that in the hawthorn trees, a lot of small birds can live, because there are all these thorns, there are all these like branches, so they live in there, and the big birds can actually not go in there because of the thorns. So the big predators can't go in there, and so hawthorn keeps this very vulnerable space, again, exactly as you're saying, the heart. Hawthorn keeps that really vulnerable space of ours protected, and her berries gives nourishment to so many animals long into the winter season, where most of the things you can't eat anymore. And so she has that, you know, that she's the one who can feed these sensitive small parts even in the depth of winter. Like, that is so beautiful and so compassionate and so loving. I was about to say, like, I feel that she has, as a witch, like, has that way of being misunderstood.
Yeah. Wherever we got afraid, we see it as darkness. But in so many plants, this is just a sort of power is such an overused word, but force, I don't know.
Yeah, or an invitation to get to know it better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And of course, Hawthorn has these witchy aspects, and she knows a lot about all those witchcraft things, in the good way and in the bad way. And the plant is definitely not good or bad. It is what humans make out of it. So that is with all the plants, and therefore I need to, how to say, break a stick for for the plants.
If I can add to that, I remember, I think it was when we lived in the jungle that I really had that experience of like, whoa, plants, they're not fucking with our karma. If we have something that we really need to learn, we have to learn it. And they can of course try to help us and guide us in all this, but just, and so in that way, some of these powerful plants like hawthorn might help you magnify, you know, what you're doing, and you might be doing something that's harmful, and then like magnifying that is going to show you that it's harmful and make you stop. And I don't mean that as like go and do that, but I mean that as like sometimes we again put this good and bad on it. And so hawthorn is not a bad plant, and it's not a plant that I would invite somebody to go and diet unless they really have a deep mastery and a lot of guidance. And if you don't know about plant dietas, we have some other episodes about that, but just like hawthorn as a plant ally, as a friend, as a teacher, amazing. Hawthorn merged into your system, that requires a lot of mastery. That requires a lot of discernment, deep discernment inside of you. And I would just say most people have not cultivated that yet. You know, probably Thich Nhat Hanh, he could die or whatever, right? It's probably, and be completely fine. But for us normal human beings, then it's it requires a certain level of skill, I would say. And in that way, if we make it more like simplified, I would say this is not a plant to diet. Though it can be, but for most people, most likely not. Of course, there's nuances in this, and we don't have to go deep into that.
Yeah, we cannot tell anyone of what to do and what not to do.
No.
This is our opinion, so to say, and expertise. Do what you want, find it out. Starting to connect with any plant, I can't just repeat what you have said. Getting slowly in contact, going where she is. And she does not live in a plastic bag in a store. She lives in the hedge, and there we have to go. Meet her where she lives. That's also. She does not live in a tincture. She does not live in any medicine. There is Hawthorn medicine in pills available. Fine, they work of the heart, but there is not the spirit in. There's not the plant in that way in.
I just wanted to add that Hawthorn is one of those that actually counts as medicine also for the more Western paradigm, where they're like, oh, this is actually a heart medicine. This is something that is affecting the heart, and you can get prescribed Hawthorn.
You can take it as a supplement, easy. The only thing is, if you have severe heart problems, you need to take strong heart medication, then you don't do Hawthorn without talking with your doctor. So that is really no go, and to take care of that. I think and that should be mentioned as well.
That's a very good idea to mention. And also to mention with that, which is like, there's always a question of amounts here, like how much, how often, close to what of other things, right? It's like, if you're, as an example, if you're drinking a bunch of cacao, which has an MIO in it, that affects everything else that you're taking. But yeah, can you go a little back to this thing of like it being a heart medicine? We also call it the heart opener of the north.
Yeah, or the mother of the dreams, because always you get vivid dreams, or many people get. She kind of holds space for our broken hearts. If this is in having lost someone, crying for an old love, having cravings of, how is it called? Desires of the heart, thank you. It is some sort of a wish fulfilling plant. All is heart centered with her. So also back to the symbolic of the fairy tales, going through the hawthorn, going through the edges and the thorns.
And your own fears about them, mainly your own fears and shadows about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That means exactly that, to go through what hurts. So all those needles in your heart where somebody has hurt you, or you did it to yourself, that is where she can hold space to walk through. And that needs a good amount of consciousness and good intentions. So opening the heart, this is the plan to go to, but opening the heart is a little bit overused in many circles, but it's actually tough work. It's really tough work, because we deal with our deepest emotions of being left alone, of mourning, of grief, of sadness, but she offers a way through. She offers a way through something greater, so we can see a greater perspective in that, and turning those things around, turning the hardships into allies. So as you said, with those dragons, those fears, they can become our allies at the end. I think it's so great meant in Shrek when they somehow make fun out of that Sleeping Beauty and meeting the dragon, and actually she falls in love, maybe with a donkey, but I think it's a great thing to turn the things around, that things are not as bad as they seem, but it needs a lot of help to see that, and we need to confront them on the right way. So really confront them in the front. There is no way past it. There is no shortcut. There is no way of going around. We have to go the straight way into to meet it. And here is also our offer then, where we work with Hawthorn in a way that we let it help you to open the heart, and we are there for guiding you as the conscious part getting in contact with that broken heart.
I want to add in here that I feel that when we talk about a broken heart, many people, and especially talking about grief, because for me, a lot of the times when we work with Hawthorn, what I get in contact with is my grief. And I think grief is one of the most important, I almost don't want to call it emotion, I want to call it a state. Because it's like, this is not just grief, yes, when somebody dies, that's like an ultimate cut it into the bone, there you really see grief. But grief in this way of when a dream dies, when an idea you had about your life and an illusion breaks. When an illusion breaks, you can have so much grief of that dream of reality. Or when you're trying to manifest something and then you can't do everything, right? There's so much grief that we're not allowing in this society in the West of like actually dealing with. And so letting Hawthorn, bringing that grief up, is really a vulnerable thing. It's a beautiful thing to just like, wait a moment, this thing that I'm running away from, where I'm scrolling, where I can't sit, like this thing that I can't actually sit with, might just be my grief. And I want to echo what you're saying about getting support in these processes, because if you really go deep with a plant, again, if you just take the plant and just only work with the physicalities, you get 20%, and that's totally fine. You can work with 20% if that's what you want to do. If you really want to go deep with this as a teacher, you're going to work with the energy of it, you're going to work with the spirit of it, you're going to work respectful with it, and then really deep things can happen. And no plant, no human is meant to be doing everything alone. Everything is always in an ecosystem, communicating, supporting, getting things from each other. That's why when you plant, in a more sustainable way, you plant like beans next to corn, and then like the beans grow up the corn, and the corn is helping the beans grow up, and the beans is helping the corn getting nitrogen into is it called nitrogen in English? Yeah, thank you for looking at words, into the soil. And so like they're helping each other. And so going through these things of grief and also desires. I love how you talk about Hawthorn, about like the heart's true desires, allowing that to emerge. These are really deep things. And the idea that we can just do it ourselves is in my perspective, sometimes it's hyper-independency, which is a trauma response, and sometimes it's ignorance or like arrogance. And I'm not saying that we can never do something alone. Like there's some things we have to go and do, and like go and sit with a Hawthorn through a night. That's a thing to do alone. But if I do that, I also let Stephan know that I'm doing that, and come home to him, can get a hug and a warm meal. Like that's also support, right? So just, yeah. So when we're working with this, like how Hawthorn support the small birds or support the sensitive parts in us, like how do we create that support also in other ways in our lives? I think it's important. Yeah. Feels like we're going towards the end of today.
It seems so.
Is there anything you feel like that's important to mention?
Yeah, I think Hawthorn is a plant teacher of the heart, leading, or can lead us, opening our hearts to something greater. And she is not the greater, she is the conductor. So connecting that deep with Hawthorn needs to have a bigger background, in my experience. Because it's like many plant medicines, she can open so many doors, numerous doors in every direction, and it's about us to choose the right one, to come with the right questions, and to go in the right direction. And then she is helping gratefully and gracefully.
But also that doesn't mean that if you're very new to connecting in this way that you can't go connect with Hawthorn. You can always go and connect in whatever capacity you have. And I think I want to mention that for me it's not so, I know that this is a heart opener, and there is a lot about the heart, but for me the path I am on with Hawthorn is more teaching me about mystery. It's more teaching me about the hedge and the doorway and the magic and the dream space. And for me, like, this way of her working in the dream space and getting vivid dreams that's so connected to the wilds, right? Like the dream, if you just almost say it's the same, like the dream space or the fairy realm, right? It's so close to each other.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so, but it's also, it really is, you can't say a plant is just one thing. There's like what it physically does, and then there's obviously a spirit chooses a physical manifestation for a reason, right? But I think, as we have been saying again, with Hawthorn specifically, with all plants, but Hawthorn is a good example of this. It's not just about making a tincture of like, what is the right part of the plant to use? Oh, you should always use flowers, or you should never use them. Like, it really is about the whole plant. It really has the mother, maiden, and crone. It really has like so many different aspects, and it's through time, it's through relationship, it's through ritual, it's through respect, it's through spending time together that this unfolds. You can't just go get a tincture, sit and like, and in that way she's less available as cacao, for example. I would just mention another kind of heart-opening plant. Yes and no, because she's not, but it's just, you gotta do that with cacao as well. Really sit with her and spend years and years and years in reciprocity, right? But yeah, just mentioning that go sit with her. Sit with her and feel yourself.
It's all about your relation.
Yeah.
I think that we can say in general.
In general, yeah. But but with this nuanced plant, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for today, Stephan.
Thank you too.
Thank you for whoever listened. Happy to share a little bit about Hawthorn. If you have any questions, if there's anything, Stephan has made a few blog posts about Hawthorn as well. You can always contact us. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to have a deeper introduction or even sessions with it, you know where to find us.
Yeah. Stephan is really, and his Hawthorn medicine is
something special.
Something very, very special. Yes. Thank you for today. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.